Hi everyone, Keith Arkenberg Farms. It is now the second week of August, and for Kansas, this is just beautiful. It's like 80 or 90 degrees at the most out here. Been this way for the past couple days. We got a good rain earlier. It really plumped up all the beans and everything growing around the farm. But today, I just noticed one of my techniques is actually starting to work. So I'm going to show you what has turned into the biggest pest on our farm and how I actually manage it and take care of it. So let me show you. So this right here has turned into one of the biggest pests on my farm. This is a Harlequin beetle. He's dead because I just squished him. They like to come in and just decimate various types of crops out here. They love to eat arugula, which you can see they're all over it. And a bunch of other plants too of that type of family. And this is what they do to it. They suck all the sap out of the leaf and make it completely unharvestable and unsellable. The other one they really like, wow, they're everywhere right now, is mustard greens, kale. They've even gone over and wiped out the horseradish after everything's gone. They didn't really even show up until about last year. And when they did, they showed up in hordes. Like I've never seen them before. And ever since then, I've pretty much been battling them. So I've been coming up with a couple techniques that work pretty good. And I'm going to explain those here and then tell you how we actually eradicate them when we get them where we want them. Now I found the best way to deter them and kind of keep them off your crops is using simple insect netting. We don't use protective net or any of that other junk out there. It's too thin, it falls apart. We order, it's called a mosquito net / insect net / a bunch of other stuff off of eBay, 6.5 foot, so it fits over our hoops nicely, and it's 100 foot long, so it'll go all the way down one of our beds out here. I spread the hoops on 3 steps. So with me, my steps are about 2.5 feet, so it's about every 7.5 feet we get a hoop. And then down at the end, which I'll come down here and turn you around and show you, is a technique to tie it off that's really useful. So what we do here, last hoop, upright, the one next to it, we insert right at the point where it hits the ground and put it in an extreme angle. Then we come back and we bunch the sides tight, then pull the top down tight, and then a quarter and a quarter, pull that down tight. We twist it around. We use number 9 fence wire to make a long staple, so a big, basically hairpin, about that big, that is about 6 or 8 inches long. Wrap it around twice, and then stick it in the ground. We'll go down to the other end, do the same thing, and then come back up here and retension this one. Because the trick is you want this stuff good and tight so the wind doesn't blow it off there. I found actually using this technique works very well, and it keeps them pretty much out of there. I mean, as you can see beside me, there's nothing really going on here. Down here, we're just starting to see them starting to come in. Right here's one. But we got a really nice little batch of arugula here, some mustard greens behind it. We simply take the net off, and when we harvest, we'll pull the net up, which I'm not going to do. Flip it over to the side, and then you take this hoop right here, you go up over the top of it and push it to the outside. It'll actually hold the netting back so you can come in here with a quick cut and actually harvest your crop out. I mean, you're gonna have to get these bows out of the way anyway, so why not make them actually dual purpose and hold your net back as well. The next part of dealing with Harlequin beetles, if you know you have them, you can't just zap them out with organic techniques. They come back, they lay eggs continuously. You can see that's a mustard greens mix and red Russian kale. Completely wiped it out. So they move down to the arugula, which is their next favorite food. So what I do is before I remove the crop, I make sure and harvest everything, because we're actually harvesting up there right now. I make sure I get everything out of that bed, And I leave this one back here as a trap crop. That way they'll come to it and want to eat it. And they're specifically in this area. I also have a lot better trap crop right there, which we're going to walk down there and show you how well it traps. But first, don't forget, head to arkenbergfarms.com, scroll down near the bottom, digital tools and training. It's also in the show notes before. We got the ultimate supply list down there for free, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff there as well. Got the Martin Garden Farm School there, working on that, in progress. We got enrollment going. It's running great. I just got to build more stuff. Time to build more stuff, but hey, we're farming, so that's where it's at. Go check it out. So this is the best trap ever for Harlequin beetles. I'll have to turn around to show you how many there are actually in here. But again, with the insect netting, we've got kale underneath there, which they absolutely love as well. But if you see down here at the lower end of the field, because all of our area slopes down that way, it's opened up a little bit. That just happened to be from the wind. It always happens to me. So what they do is they come in and then they want to leave, and they fly up and they fly up and they fly up and they fly up, and they all end up right about here. There'll be some pockets of them down there, but mainly right here. And there's probably, oh, there's a good 100 there. I'll turn you around and show you where they're all trapped, and then we'll talk about how to actually get rid of them now that I have them contained in an area. So there is the amount in there. You can see them moving everywhere. There's my other buddy, the blister beetle, which we've actually gotten control of this year, amazingly enough. But this whole thing is completely filled with them moving around everywhere. I want to make sure not to get too close because I'm going to scare them off and make them drop to the ground, which makes them harder to kill. Now to how you actually kill Harlequin beetles. This is one of the most missed, not talked about, and almost underappreciated part of organic agriculture. We're not traditional farmers. We don't fertigate. We don't spray something that you can't go into your fields for 15, 20 hours, days on end, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We use products that are OMRI certified and use them at the specific application rates. That's the important part. I don't like spraying anything on the farm. The only time I do it is when I have outbreaks like this. If you have just a single problem, usually it fixes itself, like aphids and other things. You kind of treat it until nature takes its course. Harlequin beetles are not one that nature will take its course on. Neither was my little friend the blister beetle, which was 2 years ago our biggest problem. Instead, we are going to have to spray them. I'm going to go out, get my backpack sprayer, load it up. What we use for the Harlequin beetles, we use Safer soap, which is a potassium soap. I actually use the commercial variety of it because I bought a lot of it and it's cheaper that way. Serenade. Correction, we use Impede, that's our potassium soap, and we mix the two together specifically because it helps it penetrate in through the cracks of the shell better because of the lower viscosity of the fluid and more attractiveness when you add the soap to it. And then the second one we use is Pyganic, which is a naturally derived permethrin that is allowed in organic agriculture. The great thing about Pyganic is that the next day you can harvest your crops. I believe, but don't quote me on this, always read the label, the exclusionary period is only like 12 hours. I like to give it overnight. I like for my overheads to kick on to wash it off. Like I said, I didn't get into organic agriculture to be out here spraying continuously, walking around the fields and doing that over and over and over again. I hate doing it. I try my hardest not to do it. But when you got problems like these, where you get that cycle where they just really come out, there's nothing you can really do to counteract it. I also know that kale shot, and those mustard greens and arugula over there are completely shot, and they're actually an old crop, so I'm not concerned about spraying them. Anything I like to harvest and eat, I will try my darndest not to put anything on them because, like I said, that's not what I got into. I got into this because why am I going to spend all this time and effort to grow something naturally and organically and then spray chemicals all over it, even though they're certified OMRI organic chemicals? That's just not my thing. So I'm going to go mix them up here in the pack house. We're going to take Pyganic to its highest rate that we can to apply, and then mix the Safer soap, potassium soap, in at its recommended amount in the same container. I already have some mixed up, so I'm not going to do that on camera, but I will tell you, mix the potassium soap with your water first, give it a good shake, not too much because it will foam just a little bit, but then add your Pyganic afterwards, because it does some kind of weird thing where it'll actually gel with it, and I think it almost makes soap, to be honest with you, like bar soap. It kind of gets all jelly and weird. So then you have to kind of agitate it again to kind of get dispersed through the liquid so you can apply it directly to the crop and not have any worries about having water and gummed up bits kind of, you know, spraying around. Now there's also application rates on the amount you apply as you go down the row. Again, refer to the manufacturer's instructions on this and the application rates of how much per bed foot. If I recall right, 1 gallon will do 100 foot, which to me that seems crazy because that's way too much. Don't quote me on that, that's what I remember. Usually I'll mix up a gallon and I'll hit all of the hot spots in my farm and not have to worry about it. So we're gonna get that out, get these little buggers knocked out, and they'll drop literally within about a minute. There just won't be any left. Now you have to be quick about this, and you really want a high volume sprayer for this. That's why I use a backpack sprayer. It's got 2 nozzles on the end of it, one out on the tip, one below it. It gives a higher application rate and doesn't allow them to flee because they feel a speck come on them, because they instantly drop to the ground. And once they go through the canopy, they're harder to get at. Now I sped that up for time purposes, but I always make 2 passes. I go down one side and then go back the other. That way I make sure I'm getting it in from both sides and on the plants on the inside on both sides as well. But it's what we gotta do when we gotta do it. As you probably noticed, I'm wearing shirt, long pants, and closed-toe shoes, which you should always do when spraying. And if for some reason I gotta do this in the greenhouse, I also wear a respirator. I mean, this stuff is an organic chemical, which is safer, but it can also be poisonous to use well. So you wanna be very, very careful when using any type of product that will kill insects, because if you ingest enough of it, it can kill you too. So that's about all we're gonna go with that topic today. Again, I try my hardest not to do this, but when I've got the opportune setup where I've got them trapped, or I've got a trap crop I'm not going to harvest, I will go at them and hit them on a regular interval until I knock them down, or at least knock the population down. Hopefully if I do that for a season or 2, the populations will dwindle and we won't have that problem until the next bloom in 7, 10, whatever years it happens to be that they actually bloom out in a big cycle. So, as always, hope y'all like what you saw today. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank y'all. Have a good day.